in the year 2020, which was around 70% in 2011. So I see there is a dynamism there. There is some kind of an activity which has been quite engaging, and there are a lot of challenges. At present, we see almost around 45% of India's total manufacturing output comes from the SMEs, and they employ almost around 40% of the workforce. The last few years have been, a lot of SMEs started recognizing technology as a key business drive, but its adoption is still low as compared to other countries, particularly EU and various other geographies. This is due to the combination of various factors. Probably SMEs did not understand the benefits of technology, which can deliver across end-to-end value chains, and lack of guidance on the inherent abilities of technologies, or otherwise how it can be used, integrated, and institutionalized for their business. Resistance to incurring upfront investment-related costs to the implementing technology. Lack of skilled manpower to some extent. These are some of the problems which we face in a large SME-driven economy like India. Frost & Sullivan has done this study a year back, and NASSCOM along with Frost & Sullivan did this study, and we came across these kind of findings. But last 14-15 months, the scenario has been changing with a lot of focus on startups, and we have not heard of something called Startup Village that has come up, and I think this budding startups, which is coming up more so in the innovation and technology space, in the days to come, this scenario will change, and I think a lot of innovation and a lot of technology will play a vital role in the days to come in the SME sector in India.
Very interesting. You mentioned a new buzzword, startup village, which is quite interesting. Actually, you come from a completely interesting background, representing the business interests of the Dutch, or rather the Netherlands in India. How do you see this from the Dutch or Indo-Dutch perspective?
Yeah, as the previous speaker said, I fully agree with all of them, and it's virtually the world over, that it is the SMEs that drive the economy, whether it's India, whether it's Germany, or whether it's Netherlands. Definitely a huge amount of the exports, a huge amount of the percentage of the GDP is because of the SMEs. But I would like to make two distinctions here. When you say SMEs, I would try to remove the small, stick to the medium. You see, the small companies are small. Let's face it, they are not really capable of going global or growing in a big way. It is the medium-sized companies that have the capacity, and this is something that I face regularly when we deal with companies in the Netherlands. Because we as a trade office for the Netherlands government, our main goal is to try and help small and medium-sized companies. When we talk to them, what we realize is the small companies are still thinking small, whereas the medium-sized companies that are looking global, want to go global, but are hesitant. Because the second factor is that their risk-taking capabilities are less. You see, the big companies like Shell or Philips or whatever can throw away money and to any consultant and say, okay, get me this research done and tell me where I should go, what I should do, and how I should do it. But a medium-sized company, for a medium-sized company to go abroad is a risk. They have limited resources, and they want to grow, they want to do a lot, they want to change, but are afraid. So what would make them comfortable is something exactly what I saw in your presentation on RheinBrücke, is that you have, it's not just offshoring, it's nearshoring also. That there is a person locally, maybe within a few hours of a couple of hours of flight, that you could come over if there is a problem. Now that gives companies a lot of confidence, especially the medium-sized companies. Again, big companies don't bother because they have enough money to change and charter a plane or whatever. But a medium-sized company in Netherlands would feel, or in Europe for that matter, would feel more comfortable if there was somebody close by, in case they run into any kind of problems, somebody would come over and sort out these problems. So, the risk-taking capabilities of SMEs and I would say, eliminate the small part, look at the medium size. And I think it's the medium-sized companies that can really drive a lot of things. And that's where I would concentrate on. And we always tell companies in the Netherlands to come to us, the medium-sized companies. We tell them, look, you want to go global, you want to do business abroad, two things. We want first that you have a website, and your website should be in English. Because if you want to do business abroad, people should know what you're doing. And the easiest way today is to go onto the internet and look at your company in detail. And the website should not be in local language, but it should be in English. Then we are very friendly. So, as I said, almost all the 90% of the companies that come to us are SMEs. But we make this distinction between small and medium. And that's where we say, okay, you guys can be helped because you can do something. You guys can't. Better you stick around within borders, maybe Germany, maybe Belgium, or whatever.
Thank you, Vijay. Actually, before moving to the next question, I just want to ponder a thought about what you had mentioned about, in Dutch, where the economy is more tilted towards the middle size and not the small size. On the other side of the fence, where Europe comes from, to be fair, the SMEs, both including small and mid-sized companies, are the actual powerhouses or the growth engines of German economy. As Jörg was mentioning, 68% of the GDP is contributed by the small and medium-sized companies. And again, 72% of innovation is actually derived or comes from these small and medium-sized companies. So, yeah, how do you foresee this? Do you agree with the Dutch mindset, how they are, or is it completely different from a German perspective?
No, I agree with Vijay that on a global perspective, from a global point of view, the small companies with 1, 5, or 10 people are not able to deliver global services. So for the global processes and for the target customers of our company or our business model, we should start mainly with maybe 20 million, 25 million euro revenue. But we also have, I'll give you an example. We have a manufacturer of saw machines, and this is a very, very small company with about 60 to 70 people, 5 million, 6 million euro revenue, and they start now to sell their machines to the Emirates, to China, to Russia, not to India at the moment, but they try to go global, and they have to implement global processes. So it starts with maybe the 5 million euro revenue companies, and if you have a company with 50, 100 million, then you are able to operate maybe 3, 4, 5 fully fledged subsidiaries, and if you have 500 million, 600 million, then you can operate on a global scale. But it starts with 5, 10 million euro companies. And also these companies, they need a lot of IT support, because the old IT systems which they have today cannot cope with the requirements of global processes. So they need new ERP systems, and therefore they need services which are very strongly focused on the SME, on the small and medium-sized enterprise requirements, because the big IT consultants, as Vijay also mentioned, or the big manufacturing and production companies, they have big departments with a lot of people working in the IT area, and they take 10, 50, 100 IT consultants at the same time inside the company. If you go to a 50 people company and you come with 10 IT consultants, to whom should they speak? There are no contact persons for them. You need a totally different project approach. And they cannot wait 2 years until you get an IT system running. They want it up and running in 4 weeks. And they have maybe 1, 2, or 3 guys talking to you. So we need a totally different project approach. So that's what we want to deliver with with the RheinBrücke business model.
Thank you for your insight, Jörg. Moving on to my second question, I would like to understand, Keith, from your perspective, we understood about the growth perspective of how SME is contributing, but from your perspective, what are the current challenges that SMEs are today facing in EU?
Yes, I think particularly in the European marketplace, there has been one huge challenge since 2008, and that's been the economy and the downturn in the economy, and the shifts that businesses had to make as a result of that economic crisis. There was a survey, I've got some notes here, that came out in February of this year, run by the Department for Business Innovation and Skills, which surveyed 5,000 small and medium business owners around the EU, and asked them what the obstacles were to their businesses. And the number one response, 33% of the respondents said the number one issue was the economy, and the number two issue was cash flow, because obviously in an economic downturn money stops moving, and the number three issue was access to finance, because one of the other things we've seen is that credit's tightened and it's much more difficult to get access to funds to grow business. So, issues 1, 2 and 3 have all been related to the economy, and it was interesting that things like regulatory issues, which have perhaps traditionally been seen as barriers for organisations growing, scored relatively low, I think 3% in the survey. One thing that did come out, one of the things that came out from the survey, is that businesses are looking to gain competitive advantage. And another theme that came out, which I think is quite pertinent for the discussions this evening, they talked about the difficulty of getting, or the availability of having the right information at the right time. And I think that that's a theme that I guess we may explore more as the evening develops. So, thank you.
That was very interesting, the right information at the right time, and you also mentioned about, trying to be more, on a competitive advantage over the other competitions. Probably, IT could be one of those solutions which could help them in moving towards that. But moving to you, what do you see from your perspective the challenges of SMEs in the DACH region? Deutschland, Austria, Switzerland.
Thank you, Vitri, for this question. I mentioned before that in our region, in the middle of Europe, we cannot compete with low-cost countries in terms of production. So we need innovative products or new value-adding services for the customers. So if you think about the manufacturing industry, especially the machinery equipment industry, today with selling the sales of the machines, they make an EBIT about maybe 2%, maybe 3%, sometimes 0%. Mainly 60, 70, 80% of the EBIT comes from customer services. And therefore, we cannot only sell spare parts or repair services, we have to sell value-adding services. What I want to say is one of the challenges for these SMEs is to find new business models, to be ahead of the regular machine sales, to have innovation in the products, in the services. That was one example from the service area. Another example comes from the machine or from the product, from the parts, from the components area, where we are talking in Germany now about the Industry 4.0 concept. Maybe that's not familiar all over the world. The background of this is the Internet of Things and Services. All parts, all components, all machines, all products, all services even are in the future connected via the Internet. And this is also one major part where you get innovation into your products. Your products have to be able to communicate with the world. For example, a machine has to communicate its conditions, condition monitoring. And and not offline 2 years later, but online. And then you can, based on these conditions, you can offer new services to the customers, that you have more uptime, better efficiency of the machines, and so on and so forth. So you can generate benefits for your customers. So what I want to say, especially in our region, the companies need new business models, need innovation to survive and to be successful in the future. That's one issue, one challenge. The next challenge is how to cope with the global processes. If you are a medium-sized company, you have to cope with a lot of different countries. If you want to go global, it's not one subsidiary, it's a subsidiary in India, one in China, one in Russia, one in Brazil, and one in the US. So that's a minimum setup for a global business. And then you have only five countries which you are serving your customers. So this is a very, very big challenge, how to cope with this globalization. And based on this globalization, you have to deliver processes which are reliable, high quality processes, high quality products. You have to be responsive. That means the customer does not want to wait half a year for your service or for your product. You have to be very fast with regard to the order management, and you have to be flexible, because there are different requirements in different markets in the world, and you cannot put a German standard to all parts of the world. So in Asia, maybe the response times are totally different with regard to Europe or to the US. So you have to cope with a lot of different requirements, and therefore you have to have flexible processes, and these flexible processes have to be supported by the IT systems. And there we have now, again, the RheinBrücke business model. It's not a standard, for example, big German ERP system, and you have the same standard all over the world. You need flexible systems which can cope with different requirements in different parts of the world. These are the main challenges for SME from my point of view, besides all these financial issues. And I agree totally with Keith about these financial issues.
Thank you, Jörg. That was a good insight. Moving on to Purus, comparing the Indian perspective to the European challenges, do you think it's a similar situation for the Indian SMEs, or is it kind of totally different?
No, I wouldn't want to talk about the IT SMEs. Situation is very different here. I hope you have taken your friends to the IT Express Highway in Chennai. We have to fight for power, water, roads, infrastructure. It really makes uncompetitive for people who are passionate towards doing business. We have 3.1 million people directly employed in business, IT business. We do 55% of work outsourcing from India. And when it comes to the IT SMEs, the industry contribute this year is around $108 billion of exports. But when it comes to IT SMEs, not even 10% is what we contribute. The reason being, I want to quote one example. There was one large company from US which wanted to set up shop in Chennai. Went around for 5 months, 6 months in between election scheme. And actually, we were told in October only we'll get this piece. But thank God, with all the efforts, strategies, a great team involved, we were able to push it and we inaugurated it today only. So, because it's a small company, branding visibility is still an issue. In spite of being a powerhouse for the IT worldwide, whichever country you go, they ask us, how is it possible being in India to do this kind of software revolution? All that we added is number of engineering colleges to this country. And with all the efforts, we have created a brand. Did we do it for IT SMEs? It's a long way to go. And we also have first generation graduates who are entrepreneurs. The challenge for them is very different. They don't know where they are. In terms of knowledge, in terms of capabilities, yes. But how do we reach that space? That mentoring and that unholding is yet to happen, particularly for SMEs who need a lot of assistance. There is a lot more free resources like NASCOM, TIE, CI, everybody is doing their bit. But in terms of entrepreneurs understanding opportunities, SMEs working very closely with opportunities, that gap is still there. We say that domestic is here to grow by 40%, which includes manufacturing, healthcare, pharma, retail, telecom. Thanks to the internet and mobile penetration, but still it is a place where we need to reach. So yes, there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of opportunities, but it's a great place to be in and start working towards these challenges, addressing these challenges.
It's a very insightful information. Thanks, Bruce. Actually, I want to slightly take a slight departure from the previous question. The Netherlands, as Vijay, you know, on the other hand, is a knowledge and service economy. Could you share your thoughts on the SME landscape in that part of the world, or do you think it's?
See again, in the Netherlands, in the knowledge economy, it is the small, medium-sized companies, the SMEs, that have done extremely well. There are a lot of companies who have come out with innovations, and we're seeing that they've done extremely well, though they're small in size. But that is possible again because it's IT. IT requires minds, not numbers. It requires people with a vision. I'll give you a couple of examples. There was a guy who came to me in 1985 when I was working at the consulate, Netherlands consulate in Mumbai. He came as part of a mission. His name was Jan Barn, and he said, "I'm into computers and I want to see what I can do in India." So we introduced him to a company. I introduced him to a company called Datamatics in Bombay in 1985. I didn't know what a computer was at that time. I'd never seen a computer. I didn't even know what it was. But he tied up with Datamatics. Within 3 years, in 1988, when the contract with Datamatics was getting over, he felt, in 1988, he felt that India had tremendous potential in IT. The term IT wasn't even used those days, I think. And he set up on his own in Bombay called Barn Infosystems. Barn went on to become one of the biggest in ERP. And in 1994, again, he was one of the first investors in the field of IT in India. He shifted from Mumbai to Hyderabad. He said, Hyderabad is cheaper, I can get better people there. And in 1984, he set up a huge campus in Hyderabad. He made his billions in India. And he was a small company, nobody in the Netherlands knew about, but he became one of the biggest companies. But yeah, that is history. Today, there is a company called ARS Transport in Technopark in Trivandrum. Do you know what they do? They are sitting in Trivandrum. They are monitoring and guiding traffic in 3 countries in Europe, in Netherlands, in Denmark, in Finland. The red light that you see on the highway saying slow down to 80 kilometers or 100 kilometers is being done here at Trivandrum by ARS Transport. In the cities and on the highways in 3 countries, the traffic is monitored and guided here in Trivandrum.
That's why we're not able to go in a decent speed in those countries.
So, what I'm saying is that in IT, what is required is your thinking. There's another very small company, Dutch company based here in Chennai, and they are doing design of packaging for all the supermarkets in Netherlands, the big supermarkets in Netherlands, like Albert Heijn and all. They are a team of about 15 people here, but they've been doing it for the last 6-7 years here. So it's again based on not so much on numbers, but it's on the people who start those companies, their vision, and the kind of innovation. It's all innovation today. Everything is innovation today. And for innovation, it's not numbers. And that is why SMEs have been very successful in the IT. It's largely because you can innovate. Gaming is a fantastic example of what just 2 or 3 people sitting together can make millions. So the entire emphasis about SMEs and IT is completely different from SMEs in other sectors, and you can achieve a huge amount of success in the IT sector through SMEs, and that's what is also happening all over the world.
And thanks, Vijay. Moving on to my last question, I want to ask this question to Puru first, because Puru, do you see this reflection of trends that we earlier spoke, that is the technology adoption, and where do you see the role of the buzzword today that is there in industry, SMAC, and the emerging technologies?
Yeah, that's the most happening in SMEs. See, my perception is that the kind of interactions what we have with SME companies here, particularly in IT, SMAC has become the order of the day last at least a year. We have been talking about it, people are getting engaged. We see a lot of momentum there happening, and technology is the buzzword today for any of the startups and SMEs. And that's really happening all across the country in line with what's been happening all around the world. But we see that rapidly this increasing volumes of data which is being used, the kind of technology support in cloud and all these things, people are taking benefit out of it. But it's, again, as I said for the previous question, it needs a lot of support from all the stakeholders, right? That's happening in a way or the other. It's been happening. It should take a lot of time, at least a few years, for us to see that this technology has enabled these SMEs to go to the next level.
Thank you, Bruce. We also, from what we have heard from Bruce and earlier from Keith, we've been seeing a noticeable trend of what I would rather call as the next generation ERP business systems as a solution to eliminate some of the challenges mentioned above. Do you see this happening of late in CE as well, continental Europe as well?
Lately, the next generation ERP system is needed. Otherwise, we cannot operate our processes on a global scale. So, as I mentioned before, we need different systems which are very flexible, which can be introduced very easily, implemented easily, and I would not only reduce it to systems. We need an integrated project approach. It's on one hand side, you need the right technology. That means the new generation ERP systems. And on the other side, you need the right services around these ERP systems. Because the best system does not do anything for you if it is not implemented in the right way, and if you do not understand it as a small and medium-sized enterprise. So it has to be easy to use. So there are many issues in my opinion, which has many building blocks, which have to be connected together. So you need the right system, you need also the right services, IT services, which understand the business language. The guys who implement the system have to understand the business language, that the system at the end of the day really does what the business wants it to do. So that's very important. Sounds a little bit funny maybe, but in many cases you design your business processes, and at the end of the day the IT implements anything different. So that's very important. And after the implementation, you need some kind of change management. You have to inform the people, why do we have a new system? What are the capabilities of the new system? You have to train them. You have to integrate them in an improvement process, because the system which you implement first is not that what you have in 5 years, because the processes are improved and the IT systems has to follow these changes. So you have to have an improvement process that the IT system can be improved along with the business processes. And at the end of the day, you have all together the system, the services, and the change management, and all together can face the challenges which we have today.
Very good, very interesting, Jörg. What I was able to see as a noticeable trend, as what we were earlier discussing, is a new business systems deployment. Yeah, this is quite evident, and there is a sea change in how businesses are using technology. Actually, you mentioned about global business processes being harmonized and processes and master data being addressed. And Puru mentioned about technology and SMAC. We have good examples of how companies have used the technology for the traffic system in Netherlands. And from your perspective, since you have seen and built and lived through multiple ERP enterprise business companies as businesses you have built in your past, Keith, could you throw some light, because you have been almost 6 out of 10 large vendors. You've been there, you've done it, and you've seen all this. So what constitutes this next generation ERP which will eliminate this problem in your mind?
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Well, I'm passionate about this concept of next generation ERP because I actually lived through the first generation of ERP, and that was really focused on the large enterprises, and it looked at automating existing business processes. And the technology base there was actually, really came in the green screen era. So, although there's been some refreshes since, we're basically talking about green screen technology. And when we talk about next generation ERP, we're talking about a significant shift. Because we're talking about ERP that's now focused on the small and medium size enterprises, and something that can take advantage of the technology shifts that we've seen over the last few years. If you think, look at what's happened in the consumer market over the last few years, where we've seen the rise of companies such as Apple and Facebook, and so the technologies such as mobile and social and big data have really come to the fore, and these weren't even thought of in the days of original ERP. And so the next generation ERP is focused on SMEs, it's taking advantage of new technologies, but it's also about enabling rather than just automating existing business processes. So, I talk to customers a lot about current trends in ERP. And what they tell me is that they're interested in 5 key themes, in addition to the normal automation. First key theme they're interested in is collaboration, how they can share information, knowledge, and how that can drive productivity within their businesses. Second thing they say to me is that they're looking for is choice. They don't want to take a system that comes predefined from a large vendor. They actually want the choice to actually define the way they work, to install on-premise or hosted or in the cloud, use a PC or a tablet or a mobile device. The third area they're looking for is more responsiveness. They're looking in their businesses to have real-time relationships with their customers and their suppliers and their partners. They're looking to empower their employees so that they can get more speed, efficiency, get greater flexibility. And it's not just responsiveness, it's also the fourth key area people are looking for is simplicity. They're looking to actually improve the user experience and to open up our ERP to an ever greater number of people within the organisation, not just the gurus in the IT department. And the final key theme is mobility. People are looking for the ERP to work the way that they want it to work, at any device, at any time. And for that to drive that efficiency and faster decision making. So, customers say collaboration, choice, responsiveness, simplicity, mobility. The challenge for us as vendors and partners in the IT industry is how do we actually take those themes and enable manufacturing to exploit these 5 key trends. So for example, what drives a manufacturer, for example, maybe, how he can have targeted production and distribution and move his business closer to the customer, or how he can use innovation to accelerate time to market, or how we can use these technologies to look at how they can focus the portfolio on profitable products and services. Using IT to drive business insight, business intelligence, so that you can make those better decisions to fuel growth. And we've also got to use IT to help us with some of the challenges that we have, such as meeting regulatory requirements and helping to drive green initiatives. So when I talk about next generation ERP, it's not a technology discussion. It's about how technology can be used to help drive innovation, to help drive competitive advantage, how it can help customer engagement, how it can help drive business insight. And these are the characteristics that we're now seeing in the ERP marketplace these days. So, for me, and the reason I'm passionate about it, is that this concept of next generation ERP is a business enabler, not a technology enabler. And it is going to be imperative to support the growth that we talked about earlier in the SME sector.
Excellent, very nice way of ending it by you letting out the 5 key trends buzzword today. Thank you, Keith. Thank you all for honoring us and coming us and being here as a distinguished panel. Rheinkontakt is a session where we want to have multiple sessions, at least 3 or 4 sessions for a year, and we look forward to having you in future sessions, sharing your expert thoughts and educating us. I would like to call Kumar on board to give a short gift to.
I've been associated with the ERP world for the last couple of decades. And my question here is, I think one of the interesting topics I was curious to understand was about how the analytics, the business analytics, is coexisting with these ERP systems, and what's the future that you see for analytics, and especially how the small and medium businesses are leveraging it. To hear from the panel.
Seeing an ERP system that at some point in the process that you have to actually produce the reports that are either statutory reports or the standard management reports. I think what we see now is that we need to make a whole range of business intelligence capability available for people, such that users rather than IT professionals can actually extract information and design a report on the fly. Or that we've incorporating new technologies such as search. I mean, the first thing I do if I have a question in my private life is I open up my iPad and I get onto Google and type in the question. Well, why shouldn't I be able to do that in the ERP world? So it's bringing technologies such as that into the ERP environment and allowing people to work as intuitively in ERP as they're able to in other applications driven from the social side.
Thank you, Keith. One more question, please. And probably the rest of the questions we can have over the dinner. Yes, Vinod.
My question is more as a small business owner. How can ERP systems become more affordable? Because one of the constant challenges small businesses face is the affordability. There's no question everyone wants an ERP, but how can you make it more affordable for small businesses? Because most of the enterprise ERP is enterprise grade. That's the common belief. So, is there a way we can make it more affordable?
I'll hand over to one of my other colleagues. I think the key to making ERP more affordable is actually to make it less monolithic. Once upon a time, you used to get ERP was delivered on a truck, and it was pre-configured, and it was very complex, and you had to fit your business to work along with the ERP. And it comes back to the conversation we were having about next generation ERP that has got that flexibility to define a set of core business processes, but also to enable you to tailor them very quickly and on the fly, and to actually build in that flexibility so that you can change your ERP as your business requirements change. Because I think that was one of the other challenges with first generation systems, is you installed it and you ran the same processes for 15 years. Well, your business didn't stand still for 15 years. Your business is constantly evolving. So I think we're looking for that agility in terms of the tool sets, in terms of the technologies that are employed, and we're also looking at deployment models as well. Once upon a time, you started an ERP implementation on day one, and you finished it on year 7. And one of the things that I'm very keen on is that our customers should actually look as to see how they can get real results in 60, 90, 120 days, deliver real benefits, and then move on to a phase 2. And also looking at delivery models, rather than having an army of consultants from some high-paid consultancy that come in and stay in your business for several years, how the ERP vendors can facilitate knowledge transfer, but also how we can partner with companies, in our case, for example, working with companies like RheinBrücke, so we can actually balance onshoring, nearshoring, offshoring requirements in terms of delivery. So it's about harnessing people and technology and taking this new approach and making it more user-friendly and making it less. ERP used to be a pretty painful thing. We're trying to make it easier.
Thank you, Keith. A small gift for the panel, please. Through the next event, may I request you? Thank you.
We do the first RheinBrücke Business Excellence Awards. I request my colleague Manoj to come and announce the first one. Thank you. So we are trying to make it a little lighter right now, and I have this honor and privilege to announce the first RheinBrücke Business Excellence Award. This will be given to 2 persons, and there was a judging committee which went through multiple factors, features of the person, and then they finalized this. So the first one, the reason that he has been selected, he is an avid golfer, so that is the first criteria. Okay, so any one of you play golf? Yeah, wow, just one person. He's also a footballer, and he loves his gin and tonic over breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So these are the criteria for selecting the first RheinBrücke Business Excellence Award. But then he also does other work, and he has to earn his bread and cheese and wine and gin. So he sells ERP in a very large territory of EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, Africa, and you can imagine how large a territory that is, and different kind of culture, market, and it's not simple to put feet on the ground. So he used the channel mode to build channel and alliance management. He brought innovative ways and means of channel management. He used partner enablement program, and that became a ripple effect, a force multiplier effect, and build the business. So, ladies and gentlemen, please congratulate Mr. James Frampton. VP Union Channel Record. Have the award here, please. Where's the award? I'm looking for the award first. And may I request Honorable Deputy Consul General, Federal Republic of Germany, Mr. Müller, please give this award to him. Come here. So that we can take pictures. the second award, may I request Kumar to just announce it?
Thank you, Rajit. And we have a hard act to follow, you know. We got gin and tonic, we got football, and then we also have golf. So we had to find another person who can qualify, you know, and meet all these stringent criteria for the award. It's a great pleasure to introduce, you know, a person who loves his food, loves his wine, he loves traveling. He's extremely well read. He's, you know, a veteran of the HR industry. He spent 3 decades in the HR industry, and he's made, you know, a cakewalk of things like getting out and, you know, surviving on food and, you know, I don't know what, sealing plaster and paint. I don't know what he ate when he was get out. So it's not just fun and games, you know. He's also done the difficult part of HR. He has done something which a lot of companies in India are actually, you know, undergoing this pain of integrating mergers and acquisitions. A lot of it becomes extremely complex because of the cultural aspects of integration as well as the process aspects of integration. So, having successfully and seamlessly integrated 4 European companies into the Indian parent, and having made this entire transition very seamless and quite painless, I would like to invite Mr. Srinivasan, who is the head of HR for LNT, to share awards. It's a great pleasure. As a quick idea about next generation ERP, where it's headed, and what Edgar is doing to move on. Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, and I'd like to extend my welcome to you all this evening. I'm conscious I'm the last thing between you and the buffet over there, and we're running quite a bit late, so I'll try and be done in the next 5-10 minutes or so. I'm not too sure if my description fits me earlier on for my award, but thank you anyway. But yeah, I look after the channel business and the channel operations for Epical Software in the EMEA region. And yes, I'm fully aware that India is in Asia, but for whatever reason, Epical Software puts India within our EMEA business unit, so it means I get to come out here. I just wanted to start off really in a light-hearted way about software companies, and I think again, coming back to my biography by Vetri earlier on, if I look at myself in the younger days, I did used to play football. As a teenager, I thought that I'd like to make a living out of that, but then I realised I was lacking talent, so that was a bit of an issue. But then in the 80s, I was into the rock band, Simple Minds, Dire Straits, and people like this. And actually, when you think about it, you know, I saw myself as this lead guitarist on stage, singing great songs, but again, I lacked talent. But actually, software companies are very much like rock bands, because if you think about it, rock bands, they have to actually think about the customer all the time. That's how they get bums on seats in their concerts. That's how they get people to buy their records. So they are customer driven, as we are. But actually, more importantly, they're only as good as their last release. So there are some one-hit wonders out there, both in the record industry and also in the software industry, particularly around some parts of the ERP business. So we are continually trying to work out how can we make the maximum of what we've got to bring on new customers and to keep our existing customers. And I think to your point earlier on, sir, about how do you get ERP return on investment quicker. So we're always looking ways at how we can take this to the max. And to do that, they have to raise their game, and that's something which Epicor embarked upon back in 2008, really, where we tried to raise our game. And I'll take you through some of those examples later on. So what does it take to raise the game? We embarked upon the first point, was replace our vision. So what is our vision? And actually, I noticed that the panel earlier on, when they're up on the stage, they were mentioning words like growth and driving profit for the customers. That is exactly what we are here to try and do using our systems, our next generation ERP system, which, funny enough, coincided with my pitch later on in this presentation. But no, seriously, what we're trying to do with our platform is ensure that our SME customers can grow as and when they want to, but actually make sure that whatever they do is profitable. And we provide the tools to highlight these areas of the business. And I think one of the things that Keith said earlier on was that, we have to enable tools for customers to look and say, you know what, that side of the business is not profitable, so we need to make a business decision. Do we carry on with that portfolio, or do we try and redirect our focus into other parts of the business with more profits? So in terms of raising our game, the first place we started was our people. And at the beginning of the year, we brought in a new CEO called Joe Powell. He's had more than 25 years in executive management of software companies, primarily around the ERP business as well. And he's very passionate about what we're doing, as is Keith. And some of our ethics and our ethos around Epicor, if you ever see one of our guys on site there on the laptop, we have integrity, passion, and commitment as 3 of our 5 stalwarts of how we want to act in front of the market, in front of our customers, and internally to our people. So Joe's the ambassador for that, and he's really supported by the leadership team. Now, from a corporate level, I'm not going to bore you with all these people, but there are two individuals which are very important in terms of our product, and that is Janie West, who's our Chief Product Officer, and Paul Farrell, who is our Executive Vice President of R&D. And the ERP10 platform, which I'll discuss shortly, is his real brainchild, coming through from the early 2000s up to where we are today. Janie came on board at the early part of the year, April-May time, and she's now sat down with Paul as we speak, actually, so I know Keith's going back to the US next week, to firm our product strategy and how we make our latest platform even better moving forward. The way that Epicor is structured, we have business units. We have a retail business unit, which is predominantly in the US. It's what we call big retail. So they would be with brands like Nike, Karen Millen, Hugo Boss, people like that. And then we have what we call our retail distribution business, which is the entry-level SME, SMB retail distribution companies. So people that typically have trade counters, they do trade sales, timber merchants and things like that, plumbers, electrical distributors and things. The main focus of our business is ERP, and obviously you've met Keith already tonight. So Keith has now got an expanded role in looking after our international business, covering sales, marketing, consulting, professional services, support, and also under that banner actually is what we call CSF, country-specific functionality, and that's very important when it comes to somewhere like India, as we know all well that certainly in this part of the world, many ERP companies have come in 1 or 2 years and realised how difficult it is maybe to define, build, and continue the CSF curve for the Indian regulation authorities. And that's something that we were definitely not wanting to do from an ethical perspective. So, moving forward, who are we? I think most people probably see Epicor as a sales organisation, but actually, if you look at the graphic, over 75% of our employees are actually in customer-facing or customer-focused roles. So predominantly product development and the whole professional services and our supporting structure is all aligned around the customer. So the outside world, I sometimes think that maybe Epicor is seen as nothing more than a discrete manufacturing ERP product. But as these numbers show here, actually, if you look at our customer base, in EMEA, 40% yes is manufacturing, but actually we have a very high level of service-based customers that are using our products around the region. So effectively, all told, with the EMEA team of 600 people plus, we have just over 4,500 people in Epicor worldwide, hopefully raising their game to bring better products and better solutions to our customers. So the second part, how do we raise our game? It's our product. And next generation ERP is an easy thing to say, but actually, if you look at where we've been over the last 4 or 5 years, we are the only vendor that's been in what Gartner call the Magic ERP Quadrant as a visionary. And we've maintained that again for the 4th year, November last year, and hopefully you'll see us there again to the latter part of 2014. And it's the visionary stuff, really, which a lot of people don't take for granted. We believe that ERP, if you look about financials and the functionality, because we are now dealing with second, third generation buyers, the people that have purchased ERP in the past and possibly been burned, or they thought it was a nirvana that was never going to deliver. We have to make sure that we are very innovative and very agile and flexible when we deliver our next generation. It's interesting what the panel was saying. This is the latest report from Gartner, this is the industry analyst, and they were saying that actually there's a shift from the management teams of the corporates actually heading more towards growth, innovation and agility. And I was making a rough note every time I was listening to one of the panelists speak earlier on, and luckily I think it was VJ said agility towards the end. I thought, yes, I've got a full house now. But it's true. If you look at our customer market, they're changing their focus, and so we need to be aware of that when we deliver our next generation product. And here we've got the global call and actually the Indian view of the management shift. And you can see actually the percentages are very similar. So, what drives our solution development? And Keith actually went through it quite a bit in the last question. And I thought, why should I bother getting up now? Because actually all the panelists were discussing exactly the principles, the 5 pillars of our product, our ERP version 10 platform. And it is around the 5 choices, so mobility, collaboration, choice, responsiveness and simplicity. And I'll just pick on a couple of these because actually if I put myself in my world, I arrived in Chennai this morning from the UK. We went to the inauguration this morning, came back to the hotel, did some work, and I looked at my desk and I've got my laptop, I've got my iPad, and I've got my mobile phone in my pocket. And I thought, actually, wherever I travel, I've always travelled with at least 3 devices to hand. And depending on where I am, it will depend on what device I'm going to use. And this is one of the key areas around choice and mobility in terms of any device, anywhere, anytime. And I want to be able to do things like upstairs earlier on I was doing some work. If I was in my ERP system, I'd shut the laptop down, come down here. Obviously I was listening to all the presentations, but if I wanted to start work again, what I wanted to do was take my iPad, log into the system, and actually I want that system to come back at me exactly where I left it off half an hour ago or an hour ago. And that's the type of usability we're bringing to the customers with ERP version 10. One thing we have done this time around, so we say the launch of Epicor ERP version 10 in India, effectively, this is not a new product. This is part of the roadmap which we started back in 2008 when we released Epicor 9, and we knew exactly where we wanted to be coming into 2014, 2015. With version 10, we've gone through an unprecedented level of QA. We had 84 customers using it in beta around the world as one of 3 areas before we could even announce GA of the product. And the product was announced GA at the end of April 30th in the US. If we look now at the processes, and again this comes back to your point, Sarah, about making ERP affordable, and Keith touched upon it. We want to put the customer at the centre of everything we do, so we're constantly now looking at how we can optimise how we work internally. Because don't forget, in effect, okay, we're a global company, 4,000 plus people, but we're still in the SME market ourselves, so we still have tight IT budgets. We want to make sure that we can deliver the right product at the right time. So everything has to evolve around the customer. And one of the things that we started rolling out this year was an improved methodology for implementing our ERP platform. We called it Signature, and effectively we've now taken down from 6 stages to 5, where we're wrapping up the governance and collaboration all into one. What we're trying to bring across to the customer base is that it's lower risk, because what we're trying to encourage our customers to do is use the product as much as possible out of the box in terms of core functionality. We have best practice built into different modules